Well, hello, my friends. Thank you for coming to my YouTube Live. I know that it's been a while, but I've had nothing to talk about until now. And I'm going to preference it by saying that I'll be having discussions about my brother, the late Carlton Pearson, and my brother, the late Eddie Long, and to any others that was on the thinking path of thinking for themselves and coming to conclusions for themselves concerning matters of great importance. And of course, I'm talking about um, uh, religious significance since I'm a retired cleric. Uh, Many people think that I was a qualified cleric, knew what I was talking about, and said it well. I never tried to get a large following behind me, but I would love people to listen closely to what I'm talking about. Today's subject matter. First of all, I was on Kisan Joseph's uh, YouTube page. Kisan Joseph uh, puts clips about black clerics, Church of God in Christ. I think I have an op-ed on my Facebook page a little bit about my grandfather, the background that I come from, coming out of a background of religiosity and uh, things like that. I think that I can very well speak to certain issues concerning the ones that I'm going to speak about today. And of course, I want to make sure that I don't do something here. Okay, there we go. I don't want to do something here to um, get you to not think with me. I want you to think with me on this subject matter that I'm putting together right now. Okay. I like it. I like what I see. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay right there. All right. Let me do this and let me do this because I want to get the right one. There we go. Keyshawn Joseph. I was on his YouTube page and I found a very interesting discussion that he has on there. It's called the Joint College Response to the Gospel of Inclusion. And as I watched this very nice, decent, intelligent, um, educated, biblical approach to Carlton Pearson's inclusionism, I think that Carlton Pearson's inclusion wins the gamut. If you listen to me often enough, you've heard me say that I would never enter into an argument with anyone that I knew I could not win. And the reason that I have not made a statement about Eddie Long, other than him lying about his involvement with those boys, if I had involvement with young men like that in the church and it came out while I was a pastor, I would have admitted right up front. Unknown caller. Yes, I did that. Okay, I cannot take this call right now. I cannot take this call. Okay, I would have admitted firsthand that I was guilty, having been involved with these young men like this and taking them on paid excursions and giving them financial favors and communicating with their parents that everything was all right, when in essence I was setting up a a bedwetting party. That's what I call it. When you do things like that, you're just wetting the sheets, and you're justifying it by putting a handle of human love on it. I, as a man that loves my own species more than I love female species, know what a bedwetting event is, and I haven't had one in so long because I don't do that. I've never done that on a regular occasion. I think that people that have serious um, problems admitting the truth to themselves do that. And let me say this, I know that even into this day, there are so many homosexual men behind our pulpits and leading our churches today. And I understand why there's great silence on this subject matter. So, me being true to myself, as always, um, I wanted to be the first to talk about it on my behalf because I think it's important to talk about. Let's talk about this situation. Let's talk about it. As I was looking at the Joint College response to the Gospel of Inclusion presented by Carlton Pearson, I listened to their um, I didn't listen to Pearson's exclusional argument, but the opposition gave their opposition to what Carlton said. I am only responding to the Joint College's response to him. And I'd like to start off by keeping everything within its proper context. Okay. I had my button hit to play and it wouldn't play because it turned off. Can you imagine it turned off while I was waiting to come on the air? It should come on now. Before we enter into this, we need to get into the spirit of what I'm going to talk about. Come on now. Let's do it. I want to hear him in the background. Do I hear him? Do I hear him? There they are. Then some of us now may want to pray because PJ, that's enough. That's all I wanted to do. Oh my goodness. To my people, let me say this first of all. I know that the most sacred thing that we can talk about is our religious experiences. If you go to my Facebook page, I put an op-ed on there about my grandfather, Samuel Guyton, who was an elder in the Church of God in Christ. That was on my mother's side of the family. That's the way I was raised religiously. And on my father's side of the family, they were dyed in the wool Baptists, sophisticated Baptists, intelligent thinking Baptists. I think that's what encouraged me to embrace the Baptist faith in such a way that I embraced it and not the charismatic, or I call it the wild bunch, because the wild bunch of religion appeared to me to be fanaticism, craziness, people losing their minds, running up and down the aisles of the church, coughing, vomiting, spewing olive oil on it, on everybody, speaking in a gibberish that I could not fathom in my mind to save my ever-loving life. So when God made the great impression upon my life, which I recently found out that he made this impression in talking to me because I came up in a traumatic situation. Traumatic. There were constant arguments, fussing and cursings and fightings and parents against the children and the threat of hell in the life of anyone that did not go along with the Kojig interpretation of the Bible. So I think that's why when God called me when I was a young man, I gravitated towards education, towards a scholastic type view of trying to find God, as opposed to catch as catch can. In other words, let's just throw it out there. I've never followed any bishops, any potentates. I believe in collars because I wore one. I believe in robes because I donned my robe. I believe in religious things like that because it separates the man as a man of God instead of the man of the people. I think that the doctrine of inclusivism works for me because it includes everyone. It doesn't exclude anyone because of their background, their culture, what their sexual religious practices are, or what their cultural religious practices are. I believe that the God that created all of human beings did not create all human beings to react or respond to the Christian message. That's why whenever I preached, here recently I did my brother's funeral. And at his funeral, I had my granddaughter recorded, so I have it recorded. I did not mention God's name or Christ's name one time during that whole presentation that I officiated in this mortuary in Palmdale. And I guess the mortician, who was a Baptist minister, was so set back by that at the end of the presentation, when I turned it over to him, he tried to introduce Jesus Christ to the people as Savior in their lives. I found it hilarious. I just looked at him and I just shook my head and said, well, another one bites the dust. Because you see, my friend, I'm not a traditionalist. I don't have to mention God's name or deity names such as Zeus and all the rest of these fake gods. There's only one God. And there's only one God for all of his creation. And God created everybody that dwells on the face of the earth. And if he intended, here's my first argument. And if you want to argue with me, I want you to argue with my words. If he intended for every human being on the planet to believe in Christianity as the religion of their faith, or he's going to scorch them in a burning hell, I believe that that would make God unfair. Because what of the hundreds and millions of people that lived far before Christianity came on the scene? All right. That's my first question, since you're traveling with me. And how about the millions and millions of Christians that lived prior before Judaism even came on the scene? Judaism, we understand historically, came before Christianity. And then I have somebody. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining. Mark, I'm addressing, I'll repeat because others will come in later and they won't understand. I'm addressing the gospel of inclusivism that Carlton Pearson adapted some years before he passed away. And I've been looking at all of his clips on YouTube today, and the man lost everything because he had this view that he was wrong in what Christianity taught him. He thought that it would be his loving response is to tell the people that he loved the most that he was wrong. I never taught you guys that. Oh, yeah, I said if you don't do this, you're going to bust tail wide open. Who was I talking to? I was talking to those of you that were going to lead in the church because I didn't want you to be leading wrongfully. See, if you're going to lead God's people to God, you cannot have skeletons in your closet. While I was pastoring, leading pastoring the church, I never lived with skeletons in my closet. I didn't have secret lovers that I went to. No, no. I wrestled every day of my life with my sexuality because of what the culture had placed upon me. And I want those of you that are homosexual pastors to listen to me because I'm on your side. But I'm not going to play these platitude games to make you feel good by putting on a pink skirt and a yellow scarf and a blue sharif on my head. I'm not going to do that because I am a man. I was born a man. I'm going to be a man, but I am defending your right as a person that dumped Christianity to embrace a love for God on your own, with your own mind, with your own conscience. That's what I'm asking you to do. Okay? Yes, you have to be authentic, transparent when leading. You have to be, Mark. You have to be. That is one of the signs of a good leader. But most of these preachers that are leading in these churches, and they have a large conglomerate of gay men and women in their churches, they will not affirm these people. They would still tell them foolishly, you're going to burn in hell. No, there's too many of us that were born this way, and we're not going to burn in hell. God didn't make a mistake when he gave me this proclivity. This is the holy month of Ramadan. They're having their feast, I believe, this weekend. It's around the time when we have our feast of Easter in Christendom. And when I look at both of these religions, I find it interesting that the eating and the fellowship and all of that works. And I see America, and I have to face it, my religion was evangelicism. That is not my heartfelt religion anymore. PJ does not ascribe to Christianity. No, I don't. I adapt, I embrace, I welcome some of the teachings of Christianity. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's a fine thing. I think any person in any religion would find that a fine thing to do. So Christianity has many tenets that I embrace, just like Islam does. Their feast, their commitment to God, their love for family. I think in certain areas they go a little extreme, like Christianity does. Um, yeah, love thy neighbor and hate your enemy. What does hate mean? How do you hate your enemy? Have to be careful of that. I was watching a Vice News clip yesterday, and the subject matter of this Vice News YouTube clip was in a prison in South America, in a South American country, a large prison. They have a huge number of homosexuals in the prison. And a special crew went in and filmed this homosexual group that loved each other. And it wasn't illicit, it was true love. These men that love men. And one of the men asked to be in a separate part of the prison because he was gay. and he felt that his life was in danger. And the whole documentary was on that. And what it did, it showed a Christian minister who was ministering to the MS-13 and MS-18 gang members that had become Christians. And in the documentary, it says that they had become Christians, but their Christian leader was telling them that homosexuals need to die because it's an abridgment against God. And of course, he was using the scriptures that the evangelicals use in the Bible here in America. And I said, oh my God. I said, what a misuse of the scriptures. I think it's good to help those guys in MS-13 and 18 stop killing each other and killing innocent human beings. I don't think that anyone should kill anyone. But I just heard today that my government is giving billions or more dollars to drop 20-ton bombs on a part of, people are still dying. Almost 40,000 dead. And our government is complicit with it. And many churches in America are complicit with it. And they use the Bible to justify the annihilation of the innocents. What? So I'm going to tell you why I believe in Carlton Pearson, what he was saying, because he saw it. He, like myself, was a prophet. God gave him the sight. And look what he did. He lost everything that he had. The Azusa movement was him. Oral Roberts couldn't get enough of Carlton Pearson. Couldn't get enough of him. Oral Roberts never had the charisma that Pearson had. The sway that he had on people. But then he came to himself. Just like I've come to myself. Because God has me helping a group of individuals too. And I've recently suffered. The reason that I've been silent, I got to tell most of you, is that I've lost my cousin, my first cousin, David Wright, died recently. And then I lost my brother Ross. My brother Ross died around Christmas time recently. And then I just lost my first cousin, Roland. He passed away. And I've been speaking with my other cousins and people. So I've been rocking and reeling with, well, am I next? Guess what God did to me? Snapped my ass out of it and told me, did I tell you to stop talking the truth that I've given you to give my people that are thinking? Now, those of you that are not his people that are thinking, you're going to continue to think the way you've been trained to think. I even want my newly found preacher friends of mine because I subscribe to Keyshawn Joseph's site, and I want him to subscribe to me and listen to me. And Keyshawn, you can talk back to me if you want, but you're not going to convince me to go back to that. Carlton was correct. He was correct in all forms. There is no way that you can reconcile a God that would smile on what is happening to the Palestinians. No way. I don't care how many hostages are there. I don't care how many people were killed. This is beyond South Africa. And the very nation that supposedly helped South Africa and to help that black country come from under the thumb of hatred, putrid hatred, is happening right in front of us. And it appears like our country is complicit. All these meetings, all these gatherings together, I watch it every day. The UN said this, the UN said that. What are you, a paper tiger? UN has no power unless you go in there and slap some asses. That's what you have to do. You have to go into these prime minister and slap them on their ass and say, what are you prime minister for? What are you supposed to be doing? Man, when babies are dying of starvation and you got food 10 miles from where that baby is, it's incomprehensible. And to be complicit with that, so don't be shocked when you see a lot of these young people, white, black, and all kind of colors, resigning these governmental posts that the democracies give them because it's hypocritical. And I know we don't want to hear that because we want to, well, look what they did to us. Well, God says that, unless they bow down to Jesus and unless they give him, they're not going to do that. You know what? When I was a philosophy professor in college, I taught world religions. I told you guys that. And I see one of my students, he is a news commentator on Al Jazeera. I won't give his name, but I see him whenever he does an article, and he's over there and he's reporting on it. And I remember when he told me what he was going to do when he was a student in the classroom at Harvard College. And I told him, I said, Malik, I said, be careful, man. Because, man, you can get caught up in that stuff. And he says, Professor Coleman, those are my people. Their blood runs through my veins, just like you love your people. And their blood runs through yours. So I'm not going to be fighting against my people. I'm going to embrace my people. And I'm going to give my people the benefit of the doubt. Where we have been wrongfully lied to and ill-treated, I feel an obligation not only towards my people, but towards the God that resurrects my people to a higher state of consciousness to come out of the bleak, dark hole of ignorance. And there's an awful lot of that out there today. For those of you that come to my website later and listen to this, I want you to ponder everything that I'm saying. Now, I knew that I wouldn't be able to retain everything down. So while I was looking at this comment, this thing called Joint Congress response to the gospel of inclusion, and that was in response to Bishop Carlton Pearson's gospel of inclusion, the Jacob original, 44 minutes. I haven't seen it, but I heard an awful lot. What they did is they listened to Carlton Pearson's, and I would ask for you to listen to it because I know where he's coming from. I don't have to listen to it to know where it's coming from. Christianity is hypocrisy. I'm to worship a loving God that loves me and everybody that thinks like me and everybody that doesn't think like me because maybe they don't understand it. Maybe they weren't taught. Maybe they just can't fathom it. Well, God's going to finish them up good by roasting them in a burning hell. I'm going to tell you, that is not my idea of God. That has never been my idea of God. I have never followed that. I followed the idea of God because God is love. And his love shed abroad in my heart. And I spoke for him in love. And I'm not sending nobody to a roast and barbecue pit. And I'm thinking that anybody that is that easily, that's just as bad as a jihadist walking around with a ton of dynamite on his chest, walking into a synagogue and blowing up a bunch of Orthodox Jews and killing them and their children and their families. That's horrible. They're human beings. That act is horrible. And that act should never be done by anyone that espouse the love for God. Just like the hatred that I see spewed in Christianity today, the hatred that came out for Bishop Eddie Long. I'll start with him first. But let me read this because I thought about what I used to tell my students when I taught in the homiletics class and all my other classes. For those of you preachers that don't know me, PJ, Pastor John, I taught everything right out of my home. For years, I taught everything. There's a few people still on this internet that knows about me. Few people that know what I taught. I never had to speak in tongues. I don't have to cough up reality. I'm too busy thinking with this brain God gave me. And listen, for those of you brothers that just think with the white man's brain, I don't think of that white man's brain. I didn't mean that I put down what the white man taught about evangelical Christianity. I am not a Puritan. I've never been a Puritan. I cannot be a Puritan. The nature that I'm born with is still there, will always be there, and will never go away. And if I don't like the nature, I got to fight against that nature every day of my life, but I can't make it go away. The nature that I was born with is what I was born with. And why would God bore me with the nature and then tell me, because I gave you that nature, I'm going to send you to hell for it? Doesn't make any sense. That makes God a cosmic killjoy. And any kind of person that would spew that foolishness is out of his damn mind. I don't think like that. Call me what you will or may. I'm still using my mind at 80 plus years old, and it doesn't frighten me to talk like that. Now, I was writing down some responses to this because they had these different guys that disagreed with Carlton Pearson to come up and give their argument, and it was wonderful. They used the text that I've been using my entire professional career. But that's only to people that believed it. You're not going to find no true black reformists. Most black pastors are universalists. They know the pain that our people went through. I remember this story that I can tell you right now. I recall, and this is a true story, I recall when I was doing radio ministry, and it was the bishop of the CME church, one of my friends' bishop. I think his name was Brown. And I went to Atlanta. I don't know. They were having a convocation or something in Atlanta. And I went there to see him. And I had helped one of his pastors drive his daughter's car to an all black female college in Atlanta. And he met me when I went up to the bishop's conference. They were having lunch and everything. And my friend took me to visit him, and he said, I heard about you, young man. You're a pretty smart young man, and you come and get with us, I'll give you a church. I said, man, you can't give me no church. I started running my mouth then because I was strictly on my own. He said, what? I said, you can't give me a church. I don't want a church you give me. If you give me a church, it can't be of God. It's of you. I only minister where God tells me to minister. And God didn't tell me to quit the Baptist thing and run over here to UCMEs because you believe in potentates and hierarchies and things like the Catholic Church do. And I told him I don't believe in that. Don't no man tell me how to read my Bible. I know how to read it, and to make sure I'm reading it right, I went to grad school and got a heavier education. I've showed it to you many times here in my office studio bedroom. I've showed it to you. I don't need a man's accolades or a man's approval to love my God. Now, here's where my dilemma came in as we speak about Eddie Long and Carlton Pearson, because I haven't addressed this inclusivism. Every time one thinks of God, that is an inclusive thought. How do you know, you listening to me, how do you know God exists? Because what the preacher says, please don't waste my time with listening to a preacher trying to find out if God exists. How do you know God exists? By going to a seminary, by paying $40,000 to figure out if God exists? How do you and your children and your family know that God exists? And what if you're born homosexual? Do you know God exists there? Does God exist for you? Or does God exist only for the people that are not born homosexual? But wait a minute, evangelical Christianity was saying if you are not born homosexual, but you are not born Christian, then you must be born again our way, or we're going to exclude you from heaven's band, and no white angel with pearly white feathers is going to come and take your decrepit soul to heaven when you leave this planet. Now, I don't know what that's given to you for. What's that for? To scare the bejesus out of you? Come on, don't come with me. That's chump change. You got to do better than that. Because from where I come from, I understand my people have had a religion that is older than Judaism and Christianity, a religion that is connected to nature itself, a religion that espouses ancestral communication in an esoteric form, which we were taught in Christianity was a sin. It was not. What do you think has brought me through and has kept me fastened and connected to the God that created me? I'll tell you what religion, that old time religion. It was good enough for my mother and my father. They weren't singing about Christianity because the whites had us out of the church or on top of the church or burned out of the church. They wouldn't even have us worship with them. And so it wasn't that. Don't get it twisted. I'm a realist. I know what I come from. No one has ever told me because I was a heathen and because my ancestors practiced the worship of nature and ancestral divinity talk that there was something evil with that. No, I said I want to get more into that, especially when someone comes to me and says, your grandmother would say to you, John Jr., and how did that person know my grandmother used to tell me that when I was a kid? My grandmother knew that I was a shy, timid little boy. I wasn't like the other boys, get out there rough, tough, and tactical. I didn't play and tumble with the boys, nor did I want to play with dolls with the girls. I was none of that. I was a unique kind of I was always listening for something that I didn't hear until I was about 21 years old. And it was a voice of God saying, now I want you to talk for me because I got your attention. That's why when I got in ministry, I didn't do like these other preachers did. I wasn't in it to have a big congregation. I wasn't in it to fall in love with all the women. I couldn't help but to fall in love with the men. I knew that man is the patriarchal head of the family, always been that. I don't know why that was such an anathema in today's church to have a man as a head of the family. The man has always been the head of the family. And now I see these women struggling now, and we've almost lost it completely. What happened to our men? Well, let me come into the Eddie Long thing. All right. Yes, Eddie Long was a homosexual, just as I am a homosexual. But there are two kinds of homosexuals in the church. There are the ones that respect the word of God as it is commanded in the scriptures. And there's the other homosexual that thinks that he is free to do whatever he wants to do at his own behest and at the expense of other lives in the church. Not only meaning physical lives, but the money of the church, the power of the church, the traditions of the church. None of those things should be come against with this homosexual lifestyle. And I am a gay man. I am a homosexual. I'm a homosexual first, and I'm a gay man second, and I am not a feminine gay man. I don't know how to be feminine. Now, some of my young gay friends tell me I am feminine. I don't know how I display it. If I use my hand, it's because I was a traffic officer and I used to direct traffic. I'll attribute it to that. But no, I don't want to be a woman. I've never wanted to be a woman. There's nothing about being a woman that is desirous of me. That's why when I see homosexual men that do that, that's their prerogative, but that's not my bag. Papa got a brand new bag. I love masculinity, not toxic masculinity, not toxic. I didn't say I love toxic masculinity. I love dominant masculinity that makes for the expansion and the perseverance of the Black, in my case, African American family, for the extension of that unit and for the strength of that unit. And what makes that unit strong is a strong spiritual base based upon fact and not based upon fiction. But because of our colonization, we've gone astray. Kick back to Eddie Long. When the scandals first started coming out about Eddie Long, I wasn't surprised. Every gay pastor in the church that was gay in the church, that was, and I wasn't closeted, I just wasn't out. Why would I closet myself? I wasn't practicing it. I was married to a woman for 35 years. Ask anybody that knows me close that I fool around with the same sex while I was married. Not this pastor. Because the thing that scared, I shouldn't say the hell, the thing that scared me to bejesus was this. I could not justify all of these words being unfair. I couldn't. Some of it was true when it talks about lying on your neighbor, when it talks about taking advantage of somebody, You know what? My sister was arguing with me the other day, and she said, Junie, you're just a narcissist. And I said, what do you mean by that, little sister? And she said, all of you preachers are narcissists. If you can't get your way, you try to send somebody to hell. You try to, I said, I never did that. I never did that. I've never been narcissistic about anybody. Let me think. I'll get back to Eddie. Hold me online now. I may have to do a part two because I've been talking 41 minutes and haven't said too much and nothing yet. Let me tell you something. I have never been the kind of man that tried to force anyone to believe what I believe. Because the only way that you can believe what I believe is to have the God that moved in me, moved in you the way he moved in me. Maybe you believe the way I believe, but if your makeup is quite different from mine, you might not believe exactly the way I believe, but I'm trying to get you close to understanding what I'm saying. Come to know God on your own. Eddie Long knew he loved being around handsome, young Black men. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. I love it today. I would rather be around a whole bunch of handsome, young, articulate, Black African American males than around a whole gang of articulate, beautiful African American females. I'd be driven up the wall being around all them ladies because I know eventually one of them going to ask a question, make a statement, and I'm going to have to respond to it. And they're not going to understand me because they're going to think I'm toxic male and they're going to try to go off on me. And I'm going to say, you can get the hell out of my office. But to a male, I never say that. To a male, I say, go ahead, bro. I got an hour. Take me through more of it. I want to see the way he didacts it. I want to see the way he comes to reality. I want to see the way he weighs reality. I don't want to say, wait a minute. Did you talk about me? What you talking about me for? I'm not like that. Why are you on my case? I didn't say nothing against you. See, you need a person like me to make you know what a woman can know. I don't want that. I don't need that. Get out of my face. I never wanted that. I didn't marry a woman like that. I married a woman that was humbly subjected to my spirit, and I was humbly subjected to hers. I would never align myself with a catastrophe. And that's what happened to many of you men out there. I listen to people that tell me what men do when they try to go and get relief. What do? They go and get around men that can relieve them. And I don't mean sexually, I mean intellectually and emotionally, men that can talk about what makes men a man. I'm going to show you the book again because I've showed it to you before, and I'm going to have to show it to you again because you will not get it, and you got to get the little book that goes along with it. I call it the book and the work looking book. And for those of you pastors out there, here's the book, The Masculine Journey. That's the name of the book. All right, by Robert Hicks. Try to pick up this book. I believe if you look in the right place, you can get the little workbook for it too. And every man in your presence, you need to take men through this book and teach them about who they are. For you Black Hebrew Israelites, excellent, because it gets into the Hebrewish terms, into the language, since we come out of a Hebrewan background. I'm a scholar, brothers. I'm no chump. You see all them notes in my book? I'm a scholar. I take books. All my books look like this. All my books do. Like when I went to Keeson Joseph's thing, I said, uh-huh. I love these kind of brothers. They study. They go through that. My God. And hey, wait a minute. I didn't mean to do this, but I'm going to give you some of the titles of it. Chapter 1, An Uneasy Men's Movement. Have we not been through that? Men's movement after movement after movement. And now they end up telling us, well, you're too toxic. You're toxic masculinity. You need to burn that on the altars of sacrifice. Hell no. Burning nothing on no damn altar sacrifice for you because you can't face reality. Chapter 2, Adam, the noble savage. Don't be ashamed of being no male. I see too many homosexual men don't know how to deal with their masculinity. Don't be ashamed of being no male. I'm going to tell you something. Something very interesting came over the news airways. And it said that after I watched that Vice documentary, it said that all those members of the MX 13 and 18, when they became Christians, they denounced their gang membership and became loyal to Christ. Now, you know what they could do is take all the men that they brainwash into that religion and teach them that homosexuality is wrong and that all homosexuals need to be done away with. What do you think a police force that is groomed in evangelical are going to be easy to do or find easy to do? Gay men, I'm not blind and stupid. I know exactly what's happening. Look what's happening here. Look who's being recruited in this country, being sent all over the states, everywhere. Who are the men that died on that bridge that collapsed a few days ago? What were their surnames? They were these men working on these projects. Did they have last names like us or like the other Americans, non-Hispanic names? Because the whole infrastructure is changing. And if gay becomes a negative aspect of this, you fools are opening up the door for it. You better read this book. All right, wait a minute. Then it talks about the phallic male, talks about the mysterious taskmaster. Yes, it is mysterious. Why are we always thinking about that? Because you're a man. That's why. And that is the normative way to reproduce your species. We aren't making enough of our own kind. And guess what young men tell me? I don't want to do that. I ain't got no job. I couldn't take care of them. I don't know how it's going to work, John. You better get this book. Here's one, The Warrior. Men are warriors. The glorious hero. And then the next one is The Wounded Male. The painful incongruency. In other words, the male journey is painful because they don't want us to be men now. Apologize. You remember when what's his name? Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback for the 49ers, he wouldn't apologize for not feeling good about too many black men dying at the hands of police. So he took a knee. He wouldn't apologize, gave up everything, just like Carlton Pearson. And I was thinking about my reputation and everything. For you older pastors, you bishops, whatever you want to call yourself, listen to me. Stop trying to protect your reputation and your name. Put it out there and get behind the cause and sacrifice your life. I'm 80 years old. I live long enough. If they come and kill me for this piece, let it be said, let it be done. Get this book, The Masculine Journey, and learn what it means to be a male. And don't worry about being accused of being a toxic male. I'd rather be a toxic male than a Nazi male. Put that any way you want to take it. So let's get back to Eddie. Eddie was gay, and Eddie was in all that church, all that money, and all that. And he got carried away with them boys. And when them boys come out of the project mentality, and when Eddie got all that money and he can give them clothes, prestige, they can go on boat cruises with him, sleep in his bed with him, and then he tells them it is because of our love for one another that God was doing something. He was showing a familiar kind of happiness but those boys began to feel guilty because they were brought up in a culture where you're not supposed to do that or to receive that from a leader in such a position. So I understand that. Eddie's problem was that he should have gotten out of the church. He should have gotten out. That's why I resigned when I did as being a pastor in 2016, because I knew that I wanted to enjoy the rest of my life with who I am. And I'm not responsible for a group of people to anyone, even to this date. I am only responsible to God. And God knows I have never had a venereal disease that I caught from having loved a man in the proper way. See what I mean? That's all Eddie Long had to say. His wife would have left him, that's right. But look at her. She tried to take over the church. Toxic femininity? I guess so. I listened to the arguments of the joint response to Carlton Pearson's argument of inclusivism because Carlton was alluding to the fact on many of his videos that Eddie Long is in heaven. I don't think Eddie Long is in hell. What did he do to go to hell? What? Been with them boys like that? Those boys' mothers knew that he was with them. Those boys' mother knew that he was taking them on those excursions. Their family knew that. The men, after they sued, they got their portion. This was my answer, and I wrote it in my note thing on my phone because I knew I'd forget it. The sustaining of religion by way of a theological rant never justifies as we communicate our humanness. You see, when you communicate your humanness, your theological rant as an opposition to one's humanness doesn't answer the question. It never justifies as we communicate our humanness as well as our thoughts about the divine creator of our humanness. See, the God of my humanity is not the God of the evangelicals' humanity, because I asked God throughout the years that I was a pastor preaching and I wasn't having sex with men or anything. I asked him, how could he let me preach when I had this great, great love towards loving these brothers? And it wasn't just a sexual, physical love. It was loving the way a brother expressed himself. I was looking at the clip and they showed some pictures of some young pastors, and I could tell by looking at them that they were gay. You can tell by the glance. And that pastor was wrestling with it. And so my answer would be, again, I would say this, and it's very plain. The sustaining of religion by way of you arguing theologically some reform, puritanical, non reality thing. That's why I never got involved with debates with other theologues, black or white, because that's just your opinion against theirs. And I would have said the God that I worship doesn't lead me to think like a Puritan. I don't want to be the because wait a minute, I'll come back to that. You don't believe me, do you? I'm gonna have to show you. I'm in my library. I didn't get rid of all my books. I didn't get rid of all of them. Where is it? I know I got it here somewhere. I know I have it. Ah, it had better be here. If it's not here, I don't know. I had a book primarily on the Puritans. On the Puritans. Oh, here's one. Here's one. Okay. Well, RC was named. Hold on. Let me show you. I'm not crazy. I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you 3 examples. Wait a minute. But I'm looking for my Puritan book. Whenever I do this, I should have had the book out, but I never know the way my argument is going to go when I start doing a webcast. And so you have to really appreciate what I'm putting into this moment right now. Okay, I'll start off here. I thought that I had a lot of my Puritan books up here too. Maybe it's on the other side. Now I'll let you know what I've read because I've heard a couple of quotes from Detrick. Okay, I've heard a lot of quotes. They were quoting Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I have Bonhoeffer, Creation and the Fall and the Temptation, 2 biblical studies. I have that in my library. Here's another one that was a direct quote from the lecture, The Cost of Discipleship by Bonhoeffer. I have the book. I read them. Wait a minute. Ethics by Bonhoeffer. You want to read that? Oh, I got some books. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not just spinning my head here talking to myself. A lot of people think, oh, John is 80 years old. He mad because he ain't got a church no more and he trying to preach. You know what? Go jump in the lake and swallow deeply. I'm not concerned about that. You and your brain scathe. I studied from Puritan dudes. Following the Master, Michael Wilkins. Following the Master. This was where, when I was in seminary, I learned about what it meant to follow Jesus. Michael was a surfer, a wino, a drunk, a pot smoker, and everything else. Became one of Talbot's most foremost theologues. I took the book of Matthew with him, and I believe the book of Romans, and his treatise. I have his treatise on the Greek on what is a disciple. Oh, I've read it. And look, in this one, you got to know some Greek because he's doing a Greek thing in here. The type and the usage, general, transparent usage, talking about Philo's use of the term disciple in a variety of ways, which are reflected in the types of person that he calls a disciple. And he gets into, come on, Michael did his PhD thesis on this. I got the treatise. When the book first came out at Talbot, I snapped it up because I knew that it would be a book that I would need in my library for generations. Now, if I ever thought about teaching again, I got the books. I can still put the syllabus together and I'd have some of the sharp, which I did when I did radio. I had some of the sharpest cats doing radio with me, had not even, some of them didn't even have a high school education. And they were doing it. Talking about New Testament exegesis, everybody that got a brain got this book. Because if you don't know how to do New Testament exegesis, you are completely up the creek. And there are so many people that are up the creek because they don't know what they are talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Let me see. When did I get this book? Did I put down when I got it? No, I did not. Oh, I love this. When looking at text that you don't understand, isolate the correspondence and differentiate in wording between your pericope and the synoptic parallels. Right. What other parallels are close to the pericope that you're trying to defend? And if you can't do that, you haven't even wagered a logical argument. And many people, when they study theology, don't do that. You haven't had the teacher. You haven't read the best books. This is what I studied. I didn't study any word faith. No, Frederick K.C. Price. I wouldn't waste my time with that dummy. No. If you really think you know God, here's a good book that you should have had in your library, Knowing God by J.I. Packer. Every true theologue, in his sense of the word, has this book, and you've read it, and you know the arguments that make sense and the arguments that do not. Now, wait a minute. What happened? I got to share with you. I hope nobody took my book. Because, see, sometimes people change their minds. Theologues that you put your trust in and all that, they change their minds. I thought that I had the book very near me. I do not see it. I know it's red in color and it's very thin, and I wanted to show you how the theologue changes, and I can't find the book right now. My mind is moving too fast. This was a good book, but there are some theologues that change their minds over time because they read, they investigate, and they go through changes themselves. I didn't go through it. I knew when Eddie Long came out. I said, oh, he's homosexual. And he got caught up. Okay. Now, since he got caught up, this book would have helped me understand that. This is called The Treatise of Earthly Mindedness. This is by Jeremiah Burroughs. I want to read the back cover and so you can get where this guy was coming from and so that you could follow what I'm aiming at here theologically. Jeremiah Burroughs, born 1599, died 1646. Long time ago. So you call yourself a theologue and you're reading this and you want to share these ideas with African American people whose ancestors came from the continent. They have no idea that, and these people, wait a minute, listen to the background. And then you know whether you should read this book and pattern your life after this. This is what it says. It says, a beloved of the 17th century English Puritan preachers. I've never been a Puritan preacher. Never. Okay. Most of his sermons were translated by faithful parishioners as they were preached and published by his friends presumptuously. Noble Puritans such as Thomas Goodwin, William Bridge, and William Greenhill saw to it that his words of his godly man would be preserved long after his passing. And didn't they do it? Didn't they preserve it? I got it in book form, don't I? Long after his passing. And I got a lot of brothers. Don't you believe this? I would say, who wrote that? Jeremiah Burroughs. I said, do you know when Jeremiah Burroughs lived? We don't live in that world today. That's not applicable to where we are. Jeremiah didn't have in mind black people, people of African descent. He didn't have in mind, wait a minute, that's just paragraph 1. I'm here to help you out. I'll get back to the subject matter. Paragraph 2 says, though Burroughs died at a relatively early age, he left behind many sermons which were published in a book form for the edification of the Christian church. In this important work, Burroughs shows from Scripture the great sin of thinking as the world thinks rather than thinking God's thoughts after him. Well, what was God's thoughts after him during the time of Burroughs, and what is God's thoughts after him today? You mean God's thoughts never change? Oh, you're going to use that scripture. God is the same yesterday, today, forevermore. Uh, have you seen these young children? How brilliant they are? Have you seen how smart they are? Have you seen these young children, 16 years old, running their own companies? Could they do that back in Burroughs' day? No, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. So, all right. Yeah, that's right. I remember preaching that sermon, don't blame me, because I said, don't blame me. Do the research yourself, man. Do the research. They will not do the research themselves. And then they're looking for somebody to blame because they put their trust in these people. That was crazy. This man lived almost 200 years before I was born. What has his view of the world have anything to do with my view of the world? He would say that me getting on a computer typing an email is sin because I'm using electronic things to communicate with other people, and I can send my picture through the internet, and that would be sin to him. If you send him a picture of himself writing that, he'd pass out in fright. All right. Then realizing, as he did, that right conduct is a result of right thinking. Well, that's in any culture. Any culture would tell you that. He didn't come upon anything that was unique. Not really. Burroughs gives us another gem in the second treasure offended here, the heavenly conversation or walking with God. I didn't know that you could have a heavenly conversation of walking with God, but he obviously thinks that. Oh, there's someone talking to somebody in front of my house, and I didn't know who it was. Okay, they'll find their way, I'm sure. Okay, yeah, they'll lead them right. All right. So we understand by looking at this book is outdated and we can't use it. And when you look at all these things and you put it together and you look at the argument that Carlton Pearson put forth, he put forth a very good argument. And the argument that most of the people in the Joint College responded to were those old evangelical arguments based upon books hundreds and hundreds of years old, whereas Black people from America wasn't even in the mix when they thought about defining what the hell they were talking about. So I say that Eddie Long was wrong for not coming out telling the truth. But to condemn him to hell? No. He couldn't help what he was. He was a homosexual. He got into the practice of exercising it, and he was in that would be any man in high position or high places as a leader of a people. He ought not exercise his free sexuality in places like that. He is to, that's why I married. I knew I needed a wife. I needed a wife because there would not be any advancement in ministry if I did not have a woman at my side. And my woman knew that I was a homosexual. She told certain members of the church, oh, John's a homosexual. I guess they wanted me to be the pastor because they didn't tell me. I said, so what you want me to do? Kill myself because I'm a homosexual? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to teach God's word as he told me to teach it. And he didn't tell me to send the Islamics to hell. He didn't tell me to do what some of those Israeli did to those other people, the Jebusites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and all those ites. He didn't tell me to do anything to talk about any of those people. So I never did. And I never talked about it in Christendom. I told him, if you yield to Christ, he'll open up your eyes and show you which way you should live, show you how you should live, and he will reward you with a promising lifestyle. I just recently buried my brother, and he told me before he died, he said, Junie, don't mourn for me. I'm dying before you because I messed up my life. I'm the one that smoked all that dope, smoked all that weed, and did all them things. I did that to myself. I'm not talking about my brother. I'm just telling the truth. And he says, but I love God just as much as you have. And I said, did I ask you anything about that? I didn't ask you nothing about you loving God, fool. I know the house you grew up in. I know who our grandfather was. I sat in Sunday school right next to you when we went to church. I saw you cry that day. Why would you cry if you didn't believe in God? I was crying because I was like another boys in the church and didn't know how to control it. See what I mean? We all got different things to cry about. And as we cry about those things, oh my, don't blame me because thank you, brother. I'm so glad. I'm sorry. It's straight lace LD. Straight lace LD. Who are you? Let me look at this picture here. Straight lace LD. I appreciate you, brother. I just come on, man, now and then because I have to share with my people the truth about what Black people believe about the Bible. All this stuff that we say that we believe in and condemning our Black brothers to a burning hell because they're gay, you're out of your mind. I say, and I will always be on the bad side of the gay people. I don't believe in men walking around in dresses acting like they're women. I don't like that. I don't like that look. I have a right not to like it. I was born a man. I like to wear a man's outfit. Show me one of these ladies' outfit that the dudes be wearing. Unknown caller. Oh my goodness. I'm getting this call. I cannot receive that call. They're going to have to wait. I cannot take another call because this webcast is far too important than to me picking up another call right now. It's very important. It's very important that I get this out. And I came to it because of the death of my cousin, who is 75. And he told me, John Jr., he said, I watch your YouTube live. Do another one. It's been too long. It's been too long. I need you to talk to me. And he knew he was dying. Know what he told me? He said, I'm tired, John Jr. I want to die. I hope I go to dialysis and never return again. Just die in my sleep. Died a few days ago. And I remember the conversation I had with him. He said, I loved it. When you had your radio show, when you were pastoring, I used to go hear you preach. That's my cousin. I don't be witnessing Christ to nobody like that. Listen, let me share something with you. This is, oh, wait a minute. It says, this is my son. Oh, that I did the conference at your house. This is, yes, yes, yes. Don't tell me your name, man. I'm 80 years old now. You know how I get. I drove my Lexus all the way up to your house to bring a basics of the faith to you cats up north. And on the way home, I was in a rainstorm. And oh, what a beautiful weekend. You and your wife were so hospitable, and your children and all of that. Man, I'm so happy. Yes, I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm telling people how to just be real with it. Yeah, that is, yes, Lawrence, that is, man, I love you, Lawrence. It has been so long. Oh my God, wait a minute. Somebody's, oh, wait a minute. Ooh, wait a minute. Wait, it says right here, hey, John, I, okay. Young man went to work and he said he left and went to work and left some noodles. Well, ooh, thank, thank you so much. And I'm hungry too. That's wonderful. You know what? Wait a minute. I hear another voice in there. I have to tell him to heat up some noodles and bring it in here while I do a live cast. Wait a minute. Is that you, E-Man? Is that you, E-Man? Yeah. Bring me some of them noodles that he just made me in the bowl and heat them up for me. I need my lunch, but I'm doing a cast. I'm running late. I don't care about you running late. Tell them you're going to be late. I told you I live masculinity. I want him to bring me some lunch, and he's talking about he's running late. Let me telling me you running late. And where's my case of water at? I don't play with nobody. But see, I'm supposed to be, oh, you're supposed to be kinder. When you're dealing with a dude, you're supposed to put a boot right in his ass until he learn what to do. That's what's the matter with the gay community. They messed up. See, bring me my noodles and some water. I don't know what's the matter with these people. Woo! Because this show is good hearing from you, man. It is good. And I just do these things with spontaneity because I hear them talking about Carlton Pearson. Oh, he's going to hell. No. How could a loving God who loves everybody, how could a loving God justify Israel for what they're doing to the Palestinians? How? 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 I don't care whether you're Jew or un-Jew. I ain't talking about nobody. How could a loving God of any nation kill up other people where they don't exist anymore and starve to death? And then you're going to back that with 50-ton bombs to blow up more. They ain't got nowhere to go north, south, east, or west. Their children are starving to death. Huh? How you going to justify that? How? I don't see it. You justify it. Then you wonder why I copped out of the evangelical church? Because I saw it coming. They don't love you. No. If I'm looking at a prison that can make all the prisoners that get out of that prison in that foreign jail policemen and tell those policemen to find every hideout cove of gays, people with these colorful flags, and kill them up. Could you justify it? Or would you speak out against it in the name of humanity? How? Don't play with me. See, people, let me tell you something. We're living in, you can go to church and lift up your hands and turn a backwards flip all you want. It's time to stand up for what's right. And what is right is not being manifested. Look, the UN voted, stop doing that to them people. How did our country vote in it? Don't stop. What did our country do? Send tonnage of bombs to kill the. You're not dropping the bombs to clear the land. You're dropping the bombs to make it uninhabitable unto the human population. Stop it. That's wrong. That is wrong. I know you are not used to hearing truth. Your whole society has lied to you. I'm still alive, and that is wrong. I had an evangelical pastor tell me, John, when you die, you're going to bust hell wide open for doing the trip. I said, I didn't do the trip. I'm tripping you because you're fake. You're into this mess for the money. I've never been into it. Lawrence, you remember, did I charge you anything for that conference? Did I charge you a damn cent? Or did I not drive my own car to your house from Los Angeles and drive my car back and didn't ask you for a dime? Wouldn't even take nothing, because it is not a pastor's right to ask you for anything. God has given the man of God the challenge to tell the truth. And if someone needed that truth and wanted that truth, you were to dispense it. You are not to charge for it. All of you young pastors that get into this, and so you can, oh, God's going to bless you. Shut the hell up. Lying to them people, trying to make God complicit with your thievery. He never told anybody to give him 10%. Never said any of that. And I'm going to tell you, I can, for those of you theologues that look me up, that think you want to get froggish and debate me, you can debate me if you want to. You know what? You can debate me if you damn well want to do it, but I'm not going to play with you. I'm just going to talk to you like you got some sense and bring it to you to make you stop lying to the people. Oh, yes. Yeah, I remember you snuck that envelope in my Bible. Take it, you shouldn't have did that. You shouldn't have did it. I said, why this boy do that? I got my car on the way home. I said, what is this? You're so sweet, man. You see, man, you was a good man. You always been. And you know what, Lawrence? You prove my point. You've always been a good man. I didn't have to tell you you was a good man before I drive all the way up north to your house. God told me you can go there. He is a good man. And when I got there, I saw fringes of religion. I saw what you was dealing with. You had older people in the church and they influenced in you and everything. But I was praying. God opened up his mind. Let him see for his family. And see, you still going strong. Your family's still going strong. That's very, very important. So, back to Eddie Long. He didn't do it right. He should have said, I need to step down because I got carried away too far. And I got to tell you, I am gay. And I had something with these boys. He should have stepped down, transferred the ministry over to somebody else. But because of what evangelicalism does, it promotes greed and you not wanting to share the victory of Christ with anybody else. You had to cover it up. Then he lied on it. And when you lie on God, then it forces God's hand. See, Frederick Casey Price lied on God and said that he's going to die when he want to die. Frederick Casey is dead. And I said it when I was on the radio. He's lying. And he's going to prove it to you by dying before his time, he thinks. That was his time. I tell God every day of my life, is this the day that you've created for my departure? If it is, let it be said, let it be done. But I'm going to tell the truth until I die. I am God's servant. Oh, I'm going to have to finish Carlton's because I've gone 90 minutes already and I got so much more to say. And that young man didn't bring me my lunch. And I got to go in there and crash some heads together and see why. Let me see. Ernesto, this is new to me. We need to think about dying as our time here on earth is up until Yeshua is returning and the gathering of us all again. You know what? I want to believe that, my friend. I want to believe that. I want that to be true. I want God to come and get all of those of us that believe in Yeshua and love his word and love his life. And I want to tell you, when I see us all come together, hey, man, woo, you give me goosebumps when you ask me that question. Because, see, man, I love that thought. I love that thought. all of God's people getting together and fellowshipping around one thing, God. That's it. Oh, I'll have to finish this on part two. Obviously, I've got to go eat my lunch. I love you. Thank you for coming to my website. Please share it with your friends that I'm back on, but I'll never come on unless I have something pertinent to say. Lawrence, thank you for being a faithful friend all these years. Tell your wife and your wonderful children that I said hello. I miss you guys abruptly. God bless abruptly. Did you hear that? Now, how do I turn this off? I do something over here. Here we go. Let's end the stream. See what I did? I, I can't finish the screen because I wasn't even on the screen for the cursor. Thank you. I was on my phone. Bye. Bye.